We'll call the meeting to order of the Murray City Planning Commission, January 16th, 2020. So I'd like to welcome everybody here this evening and those viewing the Murray City streaming video as well. The commissioners to your right, I'll introduce you to them. Travis Ney, Maren Patterson, Phil Markham, myself, Ned Hacker, Sue Wilson, and Lisa Milkevich. Walking out the door to the back left is Jared Hall, our staff, and at the table, Zach Smallwood, and here to the front right, Bryant Farnsworth, our legal counsel. Couple guidance items for the meeting. I'd ask that if you have a mobile device to turn it off or silence it, turn it down so that you don't disrupt the others who are present here this evening. If you get a call, please take it to the hallway and answer it. And if you have a little sidebar with somebody else in the meeting, I'd ask that you take it out in the hallway also so you don't disrupt the other people who are here this evening. If you have a comment that you'd like to make on a particular agenda item, we'll have you come up to the podium and ask that you would limit your comments to 3 minutes for a personal comment. If you represent a group, to limit your comments to 5 minutes. So with that, we'll go to agenda item number 1, which is approval of meeting minutes from the Planning Commission meeting held December 19th. And I'll ask the commissioners if they've had an opportunity to review the meeting minutes, if you have any changes. Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the December 19, 2019 minutes as written. I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Agenda item number 2 is conflict of interest. And I'd ask if any commissioners have a conflict of interest to any of the agenda items.
Yes, I will be recusing myself on item number 6 from voting and from discussion.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
No.
All right. And item number 3 is finding of facts, and we have no finding of facts for this evening. Yes.
Can I just get a verification? Was that Bill that seconded?
Yes, I did second. I'm sorry.
All right. So, agenda item number 4. Dwayne Jess requesting approval of a conditional use permit to allow for an accessory dwelling unit on the property located at 6271 South Sunset Links Drive. So is applicant here this evening? Okay, we'll have you come up in a little bit. And Zach Smallwood is going to give us a staff report.
Good evening, Commissioners. This is, like you said, a conditional use permit for an accessory dwelling unit at 6271 South Sunset Links Drive. The property is located just north of 6300 South, right off of 7th West here, pretty close to the I-215 and I-15 interchange. It's located in the R18 zone, which is a single-family residential zone. Accessory dwelling units are allowed subject to a conditional use permit in this zone, in all single-family zones. Accessory dwelling units are things like mother-in-law apartments, those types of things for people that for the citizens. Let them know a little bit about it. There are certain standards they have to meet. Like they're only allowed to have up to 2 bedrooms, and the size can only be 1,000 square feet or 40% of the home, whichever is less. The applicant is meeting that here. They are only requesting 785 square feet, which is approximately, I think it was 30%, 33% of the main dwelling. Here is kind of an location of where the ADU is. So this would be Sunset Links down here. The entrance to the ADU, which is another standard that we require here in Murray, is that the entrance cannot be located in the front or in the corner side yard. So if this was on a corner property, it wouldn't be allowed in that side to have an entrance in those 2 sections. So this actually has access to the rear through a walkout basement. couple photos just of the site. I went there this morning on my way to work, kind of checked it out.
You could have helped with the driveway.
Shuttle.
Yeah, I could have, but you know,
Then you'd be late. You'd
bad
also be
back,
upset.
you know. The main dwelling itself is 2,412 square feet. That was based on the county assessor's information that we had available. Here's a floor plan of the proposed ADU. Just a little bit of information here. I kind of went over it already, but just so that the public is aware, the main dwelling, ADU square feet, the percent total. I forgot that I put this in here, so this was actually helpful. So this kind of gives you a layout of the ADU. This is the rear of the property, like I had mentioned before, so this kind of flips it around. So this is the entrance here. It will not now show me the laser little pointer here. So you have your kitchen, living space, hallway, and then this door actually does access up to the main dwelling. And then also this is cold storage that will be used by the primary dwelling owner. Another standard that we require is that the property owner live in either the accessory dwelling unit or in the main dwelling. That's a requirement there so that any potential issues can be addressed quickly. Also, we do not allow Airbnbs or VRBOs in the city. So this could not be rented as such, and that's listed as one of the conditions of the 13 conditions that we have here, and we are recommending that the Planning Commission approve this accessory dwelling unit. Any questions I can answer right now? Okay,
Questions? All right, thank you.
thank you.
All right, would the applicant please come up to the podium and state your name and your address for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Dwayne Jess. The address I live at is 6271 South Sunset Links Drive.
And have you had an opportunity to read the conditions for approval?
Yes, actually, it was very helpful to go to a meeting. I'm not sure what meeting it was, but they were very thorough on going over that.
And are you able to comply with all of those?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, do you have anything that you'd like to add to the report?
No, just the process has been very smooth, and Jared was very helpful. The first time we went in, we had no idea about it, and he just walked us through and said, yes, yes, no, yes, yes. And so it was very helpful because I had no idea about any of it. So he was very helpful in just kind of walking through and saying, this is necessary, this isn't, make sure you do this. And so it was nice being able to have several documents up front helping us to go through the process. So that was very advantageous.
Wonderful, great. Any commissioners have questions? for
I'd just like to
applicant?
compliment him on the application. It's very thorough and very clear, and yeah, hasn't created many questions, as you can see.
Oh, thank you. That's because of Jared and his team helping us walk through it. So
All right, great, thank you.
thank you.
So I will open this agenda up for a public comment. Would anyone in the audience like to comment on this agenda item? It's your opportunity. All right, seeing none, I'll close public comment and bring the discussion back to the commissioners or entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that the Planning Commission approve a conditional use permit to allow the construction and/or operation of accessory dwelling unit at the property address 6271 South Sunset Links Drive, subject to conditions 1 through 13 as discussed.
All right, I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And is there any additional discussion?
No.
So Jared, could you please take a roll call vote?
Yes.
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 Yes. All right, motion passes, so congratulations and good luck with your accessory dwelling unit project. All right, agenda item number 5 is Wynwood Subdivision Phase 2, requesting final subdivision approval for Phase 2 of the Wynwood subdivision, consisting of the remaining 58 lots and road dedications to the property address 6628 South, 700 West. Is applicant here this evening? All right, good. We'll have you come up, and Jared Hall will give us a staff report.
Thank you. I was going to open with that it was 58 lots, so you took that from me, so I don't know how to start. But I'm going to do my best to regroup real quickly. So Wynwood subdivision, you'll recall, is down on 7th West. It's just almost at the south border of the city, just south of the Winchester Estates Mobile Home Parks. You can see on this opening map here the Phase 1 portion that was already approved. Final approval was granted a while ago, and this portion is all under construction. Phase 2, as you mentioned, is the remaining 58 lots. I'm going to go ahead and simplify a big number of questions in saying it this way. A lot of the hardest stuff in this subdivision was done in Phase 1. The improvements, the challenging improvements were done in Phase 1. The easements for access for sewer and for stormwater were all accomplished during Phase 1, things like that. So Phase 2 is the remaining portion, the easier portion. Jacob probably doesn't feel that way because there's still lots of work to do down there. But in terms of planning and zoning, Phase 1 was the difficult portion. We do have, as a part of that additional phase, I'll come back to that slide in a moment, the extension of 3 more portions of road, Swinley Drive and Wickham Drive and Wynwood Park Drive down here on the west to connect those all up. So those improvements are not in, as you can see in the photograph, but the improvements leading up to them are installed, and there is construction underway on several of those lots. We do have, as a reminder, it's in the R16 zone. So the lot size requirements are 6,000 square feet. The great majority of the lots in Phase 2 are 6,000 square feet or just beyond 6,000 square feet. There are a couple of outliers that are 9,000 and some odd on these corners that are sort of cul-de-sac corners. So those get a little bigger, but by and large, most of these are 6,000, 6,100, right around there. That was the case for most of the lots in Phase 1 as well, and the homes have fit. We had some concerns about making sure setbacks worked and all of that, but Garbett has enough home plans that they're being able to make that all work. So if you haven't taken the chance to drive down through there, go ahead and do that. It's kind of a fun project, and we're excited to see it coming. It's 126 lots total, just by way of information as well. And we get, in the end, these last 58, and the first phase was whatever 126 minus 58 is. I don't have that note right in front of me. So, again, we already talked about Swinley Drive and those other extensions. These are standard local residential streets with all the standard improvements as well, sidewalks, park strips, lighting, street trees every 30 feet, et cetera. So it should be a very good-looking project when it's done. We've had a lot of information given over for engineering, and these slides are in just to illustrate to you that the work, when you're finished approving a final phase of a subdivision, there's still a significant amount of work to be done to get a recording of that plat done. Most of that work happens with the city engineer. Garbett has supplied all of the information that Trey needs to go through and make that subdivision ready for recording. Those conditions that you see here, the 5 conditions that you see, generally apply to those final things that need to be verified for that final plat. We are recommending that you approve with these 5 conditions. Any questions for staff at this point?
Any questions? All right, thank you. So would applicant come up and state your name and your address for the record, please?
Jacob Balstead, Garbett Homes, 273 North East Capitol Street, Salt Lake City, Utah.
And have you had an opportunity to read conditions for approval?
Yes, I have.
And are you able to comply with them?
Yes, sir.
All right. Do you have any additional information for the record?
We're excited to be here. Thank you.
All right.
That's it.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions? All right. I will open this agenda item up for public comment. Would anyone like to comment regarding this item? Seeing none, I'll close public comment and bring this agenda item up to the commissioners for additional comment or a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we grant final subdivision approval for Phase 2 of the Wynwood subdivision on the property located at 6628 South 700 West, subject to the 5 conditions.
All right, I have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
A motion and a second. Any additional discussion? All right, Jared, would you take a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Patterson?
Yes.
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 Mr. Markham?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right, congratulations. Good luck again on the remaining part of your project, and we'll continue to watch construction over there.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, agenda item number 6 is Jared Cameron, requesting a zone map amendment to change from A1 agricultural to R18 low-density single-family for the property located at 6271 South and 900 East. And is applicant here for that item? Yes, good. I'll have you come up, and Jared Hall will give us a staff report.
Thank you. As you said, this is a request for, excuse me, a zone map amendment from A1 agriculture to R18 low-density single-family residential on the property 6271 South and 900 East. It is just over 1.35 acres. It's vacant currently, just east of 9th East, and you can see Wheeler Farm just to the south. All that property is in the Wheeler Farm Park. We have just a couple of things to talk about tonight. One of those items being the current zoning. It's currently in the ag zone. It's bounded by mostly agricultural zoning, although the land uses aren't all agricultural. Several of them are open space and agricultural, and there's some single-family residential nearby as well as R&B, some light commercial across the street at 9th East. That's the current zoning. The general plan, future land use map, calls for the property to be redeveloped or rezoned into the low-density residential category. A1 is in that category, but as well as the R1, 12, 10, 8, and 6 zones. The request is for the R18 zone. That is supported by the general plan's future land use map. And we did want to point out just a couple of things. As you can see all around it, the land as well is in that low-density residential category. So future zone changes on those properties would be supported in that same category or in that same series of categories. We are recommending approval, that you forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council. Again, this is a public hearing at the Planning Commission level, but these actions have to go to the City Council for final approval. You'll be making a recommendation one way or the other tonight. With that, I don't know if you have any questions for staff, but
Jared, just, maybe just for education purposes for the folks that are here, can you explain what would be allowed on R18 as opposed to agricultural zoning?
thank you. That's a great point. Let me go back to the mapping a little bit. So I'm going to go back to the aerial photo if that's okay. So in the R1, in the ag zone, you can do single-family homes. However, those homes are required to be on 1 acre or more. In the R18 zone, you're required to do 8,000 square foot lots. So obviously you could subdivide the property where you can't in the ag zone. One interesting thing to note regarding subdivision, and we spoke about this in the pre-meeting, and I know Jared and I have spoken, the applicant and I have spoken about it in the past. With regards to subdivision, the property only has frontage for public right-of-way on 900 East. And the City of Murray does not allow subdivision on private lanes. So although there is a private lane serving the PUD to the east that's on the north boundary of the property, we're not allowed under our codes to subdivide along that road even if Mr. Cameron had access to it. So subdivision has to happen from 900 East, and because of the frontage that's available there, that would be limited to a flag lot subdivision. So even with an R18 subdivision, the largest number of lots you would see in that R18 subdivision would be 2 lots, a front and a rear lot. So that would be possible in the R18 zone. It's not currently possible in the ag zone that its property is currently zoned. Okay. Other uses are actually very similar. There are agricultural uses in the ag zone, obviously, commercial and private, with conditional and permitted uses, churches, schools, parks, as well as in the R18, although there are no agricultural allowances in the R18 zone. So, but otherwise, a lot of the conditional uses are similar, churches and schools, et cetera.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Would the applicant come up to the podium, please? Could you state your name and your address for the record?
My name is Greg Simonson. My address is 50 West, 300 South in Salt Lake City, Suite 1200.
Right. And have you had an opportunity to review this application with the staff?
Yes, we've met with the staff, I think, on 3 occasions, and they've been very helpful. Really have appreciated the professionalism and going over the ordinances and so forth.
You'd like to provide any additional information to supplement the staff report?
I don't think so. We agree with everything that's in the staff report and agree with what Mr. Hall has just said. We're mostly here to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, any questions from the commissioners?
I think we may have some after public comment or
Okay.
that, but I don't at this time.
All right. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I will open this item up for public comment. If you'd like comment, please come to the podium, state your name and your address for the record.
Thanks for having us. I am Russell Swan. I live on 989 Wheeler Farm Cove, which is the neighborhood with 7 homes adjacent to the lot there. I was asked by our representatives and the people of our neighborhood to read something so you guys will have some type of history, because I don't think you've been around the commission as long as what we've been going through on this lot. So I'd like to read just a quick summary and a timeline of what's been going on and see what we can do. Let's just start. Since 2011, when Jared has come from the City Council and the Planning Commission discussing rezoning options, up until today, all of his recommendation options have been denied. The surrounding residents would like to understand Jared's comment intents for the property on 6271 South 9th East. His property is currently zoned agricultural A1. Let's review Jared's rezoning histories. According to the City Council meetings on April 16, 2013, it was noted that Jared requested a zone change back in 2011 to develop low-density resident housing, needed to go through a rezoning request but withdrew with the application. Then on February 21st, 2013, Jared amended the plan for multifamily but staff, Planning Commission, public hearing, and recommended denial. On April 2nd, 2013, Jared requested amendment for the Marie General Plan to go to R&B, residential neighborhood business, but the general plan recommended low-density single housing. He couldn't make the meeting, but the City Council did take public comments. On April 16th, the City Council heard from Jared and took additional public comments for his R&B. The City Council denied his request. Today, January 2016, 2020, Jared has asked his property to be rezoned to his R18 single residential. The surrounding residents have heard different zoning options over the years. Low density, multifamily, R&B, R18. We would like to understand what the plans are for Jared's property, since many options have been discussed over this time. For myself, I'd like to say I would like to see this property and Jared do something nice with this property. To see him cleaning up and do something nice would be happy to me. It's gone in disarray the last years, and it looks terrible. So if anything can get it cleaned up, I'm hoping you guys can help do it. So, thank you.
Thank you. Other comments?
I'm Mike Cameron. I also live in one of the 7 homes that these neighbors live in at 1014 Wheeler Farm Cove. I'm not one of the neighbors that asked Russ to read that on my behalf, by the way. And Jared is my son, and I'm not going to recuse myself. But thank you for doing that, Sue. I just want to say that we had a really good, cordial meeting with 6 of the 7 property owners a couple of months ago, and with most of them, and the one that didn't come had a letter that was submitted. And the request was for, the request that Jared was making to our group was to allow him to have access to our private lane to develop his property in a way that he could have that access. And the group told him that they weren't interested in that they were interested in him developing it in a way that he would access it from 9th East and not from the private lane. And as a neighbor and as his father and as friends of my neighbors, I'm grateful that we're finally moving forward with a positive step to develop the land in a positive way for which it was pre-approved for, and just want everyone to know that I support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments, please come forward and state your name and your address for the record.
My name is Carl Lind. I live at 6181 South, 900 East. This property is farm property immediately to the north of this development. And historically, there has been a drainage of irrigation water that has come off this property to our property to 3 ponds. And from those ponds, it then goes through a 15-inch conduit out to Little Cottonwood Creek. Since the city of Murray has imposed some drain water taxes on us, I'm sure you'll be interested in wanting to continue to manage the water that is being used for irrigation on Wheeler Farm. Traditionally, there has been a conduit that has conducted this water from Wheeler Farm across this property, under the driveway of the development, under a driveway of a home which we own, into those 3 ponds. The maintenance of that conduit has been seriously damaged. We ran a camera up that conduit to see why we weren't receiving any water for the ponds. It has been crushed, according to what we have seen from the camera, in the hauling of fill dirt into the area to elevate elevate the terrain there so that you could build on it. Our concern would be this. There is a backing up of significant amounts of water on the Wheeler Farm side that cannot now be conducted well through that area. It does pose a potential risk to the homes of the development. It doesn't harm us, except that we don't now have water coming into those ponds. There will be continuous irrigation there when the farm manages those fields well. There have been many years that those fields have not been irrigated well. In one circumstance, the field was used for parking, which obviates, obviously, irrigation. I assume that if the farm is going to continue to be operational, that there will be water accumulating significantly on that side with no place to go. So it would be my hope, and I think the hope of anyone living in the area, that the drainage from that backup, which will occur on the Wheeler Farm side, will need to be managed by a new conduit being placed there if there's going to be building on that filled property. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other public comment? All right, seeing none, I will close the public comment period. And Jared, could you answer a couple of questions that you might have heard during those comments?
Sure, and I thank you. As we talked about during the previous discussion, some of those, the likely outcome of this zone change is clearly a future subdivision. That's the point of the zone change. I've lost my feed, but that's okay. Most of the questions that were asked, especially, I don't have any idea about the conduit and the transfer of the water across the property. That'll be tied up in easements and research and things that we haven't done for a zone change. That would likely be done during subdivision, of course, and we'll look at all of that. I'm not sure how to speak to it other than to say we would have to address that during subdivision, but clearly we'd want to do that.
But if it's privately held, if it's Tanner Ditch, for example,
Yeah.
that owns it, they're going to have to maintain that in some fashion.
Yeah, and again, I don't know who owns it or what
Yeah.
its purpose is or what the rights are for it, and water rights can be fairly complicated.
Yep.
So I don't have any comments to make about that would be appropriate tonight. We'd have to look into that,
But
and
it
we
is-
definitely would during subdivision process.
But it's accurate to say they're complicated and very stringent,
Yeah,
water rights.
definitely. Yeah, absolutely correct. In terms of what's going to happen with the property, there was some timeline given in the comments as well, and we're aware of some of those things. Recently, there haven't been requests. I don't think I've processed a request actually in the 6 years I've been here on the property. But I've been speaking with Jared pretty much since I came to work at Murray about different possibilities on the property, things like that. And so the options that were mentioned are are familiar to me. I know that there were some requests for different zone changes, et cetera. The request before you, and the one that will be before the city council, the one that Jared has put in for, is to rezone the property from agriculture to R18. The likely outcome of that, as we said, is a subdivision, a flag lot subdivision. I would expect that to be the case. And right now, that's what we have to work with in terms of options. That would allow him to build 2 different homes on the property or develop 2 different parcels of property. That's not to say that there aren't other competing land use interests in the area, because there are. We have some concerns with those kinds of land uses in this area, and I'll just really briefly touch on this because I don't want to make too big of a point out of it. But you'll notice in the general plan that we have low-density residential and we have open space in the future land uses, and we do have along 900 East residential neighborhood business. And my understanding of those issues is more than we can really talk about tonight. However, the concerns with the city council in the past, as I've read those minutes with multifamily housing or lower or medium density residential, et cetera, was traffic and use that way onto 900 East, and the practicality of those kinds of developments on the nature of the land, and the difficulty of subdividing into multiple parcels or putting a lot of different units on the parcel that has limited frontage on the public frontage and a lot of depth. So subdivision is probably the next likely step if the property is zoned to R18, and it's probably, in whatever case comes for the future, the most appropriate step for the property, in our view as planners. So, if that makes sense. Any other things I can address?
Well, I do think it's important to emphasize that we're not talking about a project tonight.
Correct.
This is strictly a rezone recommendation to the city council. If it does end up getting rezoned, the options are 1 or 2 homes on there.
In that R18 zone. Those are the only outcomes really that you could do.
Right.
And you're right, Commissioner Markham, that the question is it appropriate to recommend the rezoning of this property from agriculture to R18? And our recommendation to you as a body is that it absolutely is.
All right, thank you. All right, so I'll bring it back to the commissioners for any additional discussion or a motion.
Mr. Chair, I will make a motion that we forward a recommendation of approval of City Council for the requested amendment to the zoning map designation for the property located at 6271 South 900 East from agriculture A1 to R18, single-family low-density residential.
I will second.
So I have a motion and a second, and ask for any additional discussion. So Jared, could you please do a roll call vote excluding Commissioner Wilson?
Thanks for the reminder. I would have said her name, but I haven't. Mr. Ney.
Yes.
Mr. Markham.
Yes.
Ms. Patterson.
Yes.
Ms. Milkevich.
Yes.
Mr. Hacker.
Yes. So the motion passes, which means a recommendation of approval will go to the City Council for their future action. So gives you residents another opportunity to voice concerns to the City Council. So thank you for your input. We appreciate it, and we'll see how this turns out. All right, agenda item number 7 is Fashion Place West Small Area Plan Update. So in early 2019, Murray City Planning Division staff was awarded a grant from the Wasatch Front Regional Council to study the Fashion Place West track station. And through a pretty thorough selection process, VODA Landscape and Planning was awarded, which is an award-winning consulting firm, was awarded the project to lead the project. And the consultant in the city has held a kickoff meeting this past week, and tonight VODA will introduce the project to us, and perhaps we'll have some input for you.
So I'll just, you took my thunder away. Man, you guys are just on a roll of just eliminating that entirely today.
You're welcome.
So I do have Annalise here as well as Mark Morris. They are both representatives from VODA, and they're going to kind of come talk to you about what's in store here. So I will just switch this over to this, and I will turn the time over to
Jared, could you get the
Mark
door?
here. So hold on just one moment.
We'll get the door closed. Thank you.
Ned, you went out with a bang, right? Finishing the year off strong.
VODA is going to finish our year off strong. So thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you for having us tonight. We're excited to be here. My name is Mark Morris with VODA. I'm here with Annalise Eichelberger. Our purpose here tonight is just to give you an introduction to this project and an invitation to our first public open house in about a month. We'll talk through a little bit about how what the project is and how it came about. First off, looking at the project schedule, we are at the very beginning of this process. Typically with a plan like this, you're looking at a 6 to 8 month schedule of tasks to kind of go through the process of developing a small area plan. Like Zach mentioned, VODA is a small firm. We're located in downtown Salt Lake. We do a fair amount of landscape architecture work as well as community planning work like this. Most recently, we've been doing a lot of work in Midvale and other communities along the Wasatch Front. We do this type of work, which is really looking at how to help a community identify a vision and kind of implementable steps to get to that vision. So we've also teamed up with another local firm called Farron Piers. They specialize in transportation planning. So they're going to help us and the community work through issues around connectivity and transportation around the Fashion Place West area. As was mentioned, this project comes as part of a grant from the Wasatch Front Regional Council. The Wasatch Front Regional Council.
You're welcome. I had to put that plug in, sorry.
The Wasatch Front Regional Council is a regional planning organization that tries to help underwrite projects such as this to help communities connect land use and transportation. A lot of projects fall into one column or the other. Unless we connect land use and transportation, we'll just keep kind of chasing the tail. So trying to help those connections become codified and really plan for a better functioning region. So looking at regional networks, regional issues, and how each individual community plays a part. The project area that we've identified is also on the handout that you've got there. Basically, we're looking at, you can see on the left side there, the location of the Fashion Place West Trax station on Winchester, and extending basically north and south from that location, and then as far east as the intersection of Winchester and State Street. So this project is not to look really necessarily at the Fashion Place Mall site itself, but really at how we improve connectivity between the mall site, which is a major job center for not only the city but also the region, and the Trax platform, which has had minimal development around it in the 20 years that platform has been operational. Looking at the location itself, you could not be more centrally located than this area. So you look at the length of time of getting, if you're on the train, getting to various destinations around the region on foot, by car. It's a very quick trip to Park City as well as the canyons. This particular site, as you're well aware, has a lot of issues around connectivity because of the freeway and the rail corridor that really make this a difficult area, which can kind of tell us why not much has happened around this platform in the last 20 years, is there's some challenges to overcome. But every good project has some challenges to look at and resolve. We took a few photos a few weeks back of existing conditions. It's always good to take existing conditions photos in the winter because then the after looks really, really great. So these are some photos of walking around the neighborhood, looking at the quality of the pedestrian environment, the type of development that is around it. For the most part, as light industrial, single unit neighborhoods, and some office use. Not a lot of retail or public services beyond what's happening at the mall itself. So what is a small area plan? It is a document that basically looks at a defined portion of a city. This is in no way a rethink of the general plan. It's really looking at what is on the books in the city's general plan as far as this neighborhood is concerned, and how do we take a little bit of a deeper dive into what's going on in this particular area. The result is detailed strategies that can respond to this specific area's needs. These needs are grouped into categories, and then, like I mentioned, contains implementable steps to take. We'll say sort of time horizon of about 20 years into the future. In this particular small area plan, we are planning on 4 sections: an existing conditions analysis, really to understand what's happening there in 2020. Looking at housing feasibility, studying the feasibility of development of housing around this neighborhood. Accessibility, so looking at connectivity, especially connectivity from the tracks infrastructure and the mall site itself. How can we improve that experience? I don't know how many of you have walked from the mall to the platform. It is not a pleasant experience, and you can see why it doesn't get a lot of pedestrian traffic. That being said, when we were there was still a significant number of people who are making that trip.
There are, along the north side of the street.
Yeah.
It gets a lot of traffic from the tracks platform to the mall or to State Street.
And I think that speaks to the number of people who need to get to the mall itself. And really that's a big opportunity there to look at how does this neighborhood welcome people to the area, and how do we improve that? How do we make that experience less terrible? Another portion of that will be some design guidelines. So looking at how do we develop some design guidelines for development along this corridor and throughout the neighborhood, to really make it an opportunity. I'm sure you're well aware that the Fashion Place Mall is a major asset for the city. And how do we expand its reach a little bit? How do we make it much more of a connected place rather than an island that you kind of drive to and then get away from as quickly as possible? So those are the sections that we anticipate. Throughout the process, public engagement is part of this effort. How will the city use the plan in the future? So the small area plan will be used as a framework to guide future development. So when you have applicants coming in to talk about development in this area, you'll have very specific strategies, design guidelines to guide those to guide those applicants. Annalise, who was here, worked for several years with Midvale City and their redevelopment agency. And so looking at what sort of tools, financial tools the city has at their use in order to spur the types of development that the city would like to see in this particular area. How will the plan benefit property owners? That is always a big question. Typically, a project such as this and investments that we would be looking at for this type of area would increase property values and expand the options for property owners in this area. With projects like this, it's not the type of project where, here is one developer that's going to come in and buy up all the land and do one big project. That is the furthest thing from what a small area plan looks at. Small area plan really looks at how do you take existing property owners and kind of get everyone together to understand a common vision for a neighborhood, and kind of set the steps to get to that reality of what that vision is. Another portion of most small area plans is improving community livability. So improving livability for the people who are already in the community and making it a more desirable place to be and stay and continue enjoying. Public engagement, as I mentioned, we have some public engagement events planned throughout this process. The first is February 12th. Which is in, like I said, a little less than a month. And we will be publicizing that over the next few weeks. Certainly anyone in the city is welcome to participate in this open house. All of you are more than welcome to attend and participate. And
where do you think that'll be, Mark? Will you do it here?
It is at the... Yeah. And the style of that open house is just a drop by any time type of open house. It's not a presentation. It's really having an opportunity for people to come through and weigh in on issues that they see in their community, what they would like to see change, those sorts of conversations. So by all means, bring your neighbors. The publicity will go out here in the next few weeks, focusing on the people who are in the immediate vicinity of this area. Next steps, the existing conditions analysis we're in the midst of as we speak, the open house in a few weeks, and then having some focus group meetings, one-on-one interviews with stakeholders and property owners in the neighborhood is kind of our next benchmark. So like I mentioned, that was our brief introduction to the project. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you might have about our goals and objectives here.
I don't know if you know this, staff could maybe address this. I'm wondering about the existing zoning in the area.
Sure. Do you want to? Oh, we've looked at it. I don't know if you have a specific question.
No, just in general. I mean, is it I don't remember. It's a mess.
Nice. It's a mix of things.
It's a mess.
So on the west side, can I go back to? All right. So here on the west side, kind of where the actual station is largely manufacturing.
Right.
It's our MG zone.
A lot of business parks.
Car lots.
Yeah.
Car
lots, they're
no, they're not
that's
car
a
lots.
business
Just
park.
saying that's what we get in MG. I'm just saying.
Come on.
And then along from pretty much the track station east to I-215 is R&B actually is a couple of things there.
Right.
And then to the south there is largely single family. There is a multifamily project there. And then to the north is to the north of the freeway. There's a little bit of office space and then largely single family as well. And then CD kind of along State Street, which is our commercial.
The R&B, it's not on both sides of Winchester. It's only on the north side, correct?
It is currently, yes, only on the north side of it.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, no worries.
Travis, you want to ask your question?
We're just debating pieces of property on here, sorry.
One thing I will mention, we talk about housing a great deal. I think that you have probably talked about housing ad nauseum. We have done a lot of work in the last few years in helping communities plan for meeting their housing needs over the next 20, 30 years. And it is not an easy process and it's not an easy conversation, but one of the key pieces of building enough housing for the rate at which our population is growing is really focusing housing development around transit-rich corridors. So looking at the tracks area itself, the State Street corridor, finding opportunities to build housing in what we call transit supportive densities. So densities that would provide more housing in key locations. We talk a lot about affordable housing, but a lot of communities don't talk a lot about affordable transportation. And as planning commissioners, I'm sure you've heard the affordable housing is anything under 30% of your household's monthly income is considered affordable housing. There's what they call an H+T factor, which is adding together your housing costs and your transportation costs shouldn't be more than 45% of your monthly household income. And so when we look at particularly small area plans like this in areas that are transit-rich areas, we see this as a great opportunity to introduce those types of housing that not only provide transit supportive densities, but also provide households an opportunity to live in a place where their transportation dollars can come down. And that's something that's only going to continue. If someone has told you that we're in the middle of a housing crisis, we're really only at the beginning of a housing crisis. And so the more that communities lay the groundwork for building housing at transit supportive densities in the right places, the more we'll start to address those issues from a regional level. Most communities that we work in, they look at multifamily housing and say, can't we put it somewhere else? Can't someone else build it? And frankly, that's the same thing that they say in Midvale. It's the same thing they say in Mill Creek. It's the same thing that every community deals with. We have this idea that people who are trying to find housing are someone else, but really it's your kids, it's your grandkids. These are the people that are going to be looking for housing in the next 15 and 20 years. The number that scares me is that they've anticipated by 2040 the median price of a home in Salt Lake County will be $1 million. And I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure that income levels will not keep pace with that number. So we need to take some pretty serious look at where we're building housing and what that looks like, and really build the type of community that can start to address those pretty major issues that are systemic, but not unique. Every community in the region is dealing with the same issues, and we have to figure out how to have those conversations and move ahead with those types of decisions. So,
I really believe that the trigger to any type of new development in this area is making Winchester more welcoming, as you stated early in your presentation.
Yeah.
It's a very rough looking street right now,
Yeah,
as
agreed.
we saw.
Agreed.
And if we could improve that, make it pleasing and attractive, I think you would see those types of things happen organically.
Sure.
Those neighborhoods are affordable neighborhoods right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're ripe for flipping, for people, young families can go in there, they can live there for a little bit and hopefully remodel those homes. We see that in neighborhoods throughout Murray that's happening, and these two neighborhoods are excellent candidates for that. And I would love to see something like that, but I believe it starts with people wanting to be in that area.
Sure. Yeah, I agree.
And there's some rough industrial in there that is. It could use the opportunity to become something different.
I'll say the storage place right by the tracks platform.
Could be.
They just finished that. It's nice.
No.
Oh,
the
not
business part. The tin shed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, to the east.
Mark's going to help us
Not that.
obtain that property.
Yeah.
Room for improvement. Yeah, thank you very much for your time. We will be back
Thank you.
very
This is
soon.
exciting.
Hopefully, we'll see you all on the 12th at our first public open house.
Great. Thank you very much.
Do you have hours for that by chance? For the
6 p.m. to 8 p.m.
6 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Yeah.
All right.
Great. Yeah. No worries. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
Oh, Larry David.
All right. Our agenda item number 8 is elections of a new chairman and vice chairman for the Murray City Planning Commission for 2020. So this evening we'll be taking some nominations for both of those positions. And before we do that, I'd ask Zach if you could review for us a little bit the policies regarding elections and these two positions in particular, how long you can hold a position, who can in fact hold or be nominated in this particular election, and the length of terms,
Sure.
et cetera.
Yeah, I'll do my best. So we have typically we have a chair and a vice chair that run the meeting. Chair runs the meeting, and then the vice runs the meeting if for some reason the chair cannot be there. They operate for 1-year terms, and we don't usually have a person that is running or that has served as a chair or vice chair able to hold that same position or one of those positions for the next calendar year. So we typically like to rotate you all around, so you all have some fun. So
right.
that's kind of our policies here. So,
All right. Any questions for Zach? Okay.
okay.
On with the business. So, starting with the chairman position, look to the commissioners and ask you to provide any nominations for the chairman of the Murray City Planning Commission.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate Phil Markham to be chair of the Murray City
Second.
Planning Commission.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Do I have a nomination and,
Do we have any opposing?
so I'd ask Phil first if you would accept that,
Yes,
nomination.
I'd be willing to accept that.
all right. In which case, I'll ask for a vote. All the commissioners, all in favor of electing Phil Markham as chairman of the Murray City Planning Commission for 2020, say aye.
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 Opposed? Any opposed? No opposed, all right, so congratulations, Commission-elect Phil Markham as the new Planning Commissioner Chair for 2020. So, all right, we'll move on. I'll accept any nominations for Vice Chair for the Planning Commission. Anyone like to nominate
You want me to do it?
Scott Woodbury?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate Scott Woodbury
All
to be
right.
the co-chair for the one-year term starting 2020.
I
I
hope
second
you're
that.
watching tonight,
All right.
Scott.
Scott, would you like to
Sign me up.
accept or decline that nomination?
He takes it.
Crickets.
I
Sick of
don't
it.
hear anything, so
I'll second
no
that.
response is an acceptance. All right.
I like that.
All right, so all in favor of electing Scott Woodbury as vice chair of the Murray City Planning Commission for the year 2020, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Scott?
Unanimous.
Scott,
Okay.
speak up now if you don't
Opposed?
want to do it.
So Commission elects Scott Woodbury as the vice chair of Murray Planning Commission for
Mr.
2020.
Chairman, before we conclude, I do want to thank you for this past year. You've not only done a great job, you've been here almost every single meeting. I think there may have been one that you missed.
I
and
missed a
that's-
couple this summer.
That's quite a commitment, and it's run really smooth, and it's been a pleasurable year.
And I would voice the same thank you to all of you who make it very easy, and staff who make it very, very easy. Susan, who's hiding at the end of the camera, makes it considerably easy as well. So. She may still be at the office, actually. That's right. So thank you
Wow.
for that, and I'll be here for the next year while you're chairing.
Plan on it, yes.
So-
I'm counting on it. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
That's high expectations.
Okay, take
So-
your blankety blank photo.
All right, well, let's see, is there other business? You have any other business for us?
Have any items? Well, no, I don't.
All right, then I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
Any second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. It's been a wonderful year.
Thanks, Phil.